I'm the type of person that sees like contradiction in everything. I genuinely think that everything is a paradox. When I get overwhelmed by them, I like tend to write them down. I feel like my brain moves at like light speed. Like once there's one thought, there's always something that connects to it, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And sometimes it gets overwhelming and it triggers an anxiety attack. So I like to write everything down so that I can have the free space to think about it. And sometimes I don't write full thought. Sometimes I just write a keyword because I know it'll come back to me. Everything always comes back to me. Nothing escapes me. But at the same time, it just kind of gets crazy. So we're just going to talk because I feel like I need to talk. Today I want to talk about paradoxes. I think the concept of obsession and being obsessive is a paradox. I have a really love-hate relationship with obsession. People try to romanticize obsession and they also try to minimize the harm, or they try to create umbrella terms like positive obsession, but I don't think that's a real thing, you know? I feel like the term positive obsession is really just passion with a PR team, if that makes sense. It's really all marketing, you know? It's just a cute word for something that people deem sharp and dangerous, because passion can go one or two ways. Like you can have somebody that admires your passion, but somebody that envies your passion because there's something that they lack. So they try to make it palatable and try to minimize the effects of obsession and, you know, downplay it as passion. And I have a bad habit doing it too. And I still feel like I'm not obsessive or insane or crazy. I'm just genuinely freaking passionate about everything that I love. But, you know, there's a fine line between, there's just a very fucking fine line. Positive obsession is a joke and it's very mundane. It's not called positive obsession. It's just passion. The only thing I obsess over is my passion, my art, my love, the things that I love. But I feel like that's where my mental battle begins. Am I against obsession or am I all for it? There's a very thin line of boundaries you should never cross. But it's like, not even in the name of passion should you cross some of these boundaries. So you don't want to encourage the wrong person's obsessions. But if your art is something that you're obsessive about, then be as insane as you want to be. Like, I hate when people try to play it cool. I don't play anything cool. If I'm passionate, you're gonna know. People romanticize obsession because they mistake chaos for intensity. But I'm not here to live a myth or die a metaphor, you know? I'm here to be real. I'm a real person, you know? I'm here to make something real. Being real means you know when to step back, even when it's something that you love the most. Like, I feel like even passion can cross a line. And when passion does cross that line, it starts self-erasure, you know? And it starts to defeat the purpose of being passionate. My thoughts are always all over the place because I just talk. Another thing that I believe is just a genuine paradox is the concept of being a poser. Now, I could go on about this for like 1,000 times. Like, I don't know. I feel like people that scream poser are just projecting their own insecurities. People who are the loudest about other people being posers are literally just gatekeeping their insecurities. It's like if you try too hard, you're fake. But if it comes naturally, you're accused of not earning it. Like, there is no winning with certain people. So that's why I feel like when people are called out for being posers, they shouldn't take it too personally. Unless you really just don't get political, then you know there's a thin line of how you can marginalize it. I don't believe in marginalizing myself, but you know what I mean? Like, there's like a very thin line of things. There's no in hell you could call yourself this. And this is not something that you care about. Like, you know, you can't be punk and not care about politics. It just doesn't work. That makes you a poser. But there's a lot of things where, you know, being punk is about having the freedom. There's people out here using their free will, and then there's people out here bashing them for using that same free will. If you evolve, you're inconsistent. But it's like, if you stay the same, you're boring. So what do you do here? You know, you can't please everybody. That's really the general message here. You really just can't please everybody. Sorry, I'm looking down. I'm reading from my journal. But you really just can't please everybody. And I feel like that's a lesson that a lot of people need to learn anyway, is that I wasn't put here to be palatable. I'm not going to be what you want me to be ever 100%, because I am me and I'm my own person. If there's something that you are looking for out of me, you go on and do it. You can do it. That can be your thing, but you won't force it on me. Here's my truth. I don't feel like I need to prove myself to be in a scene that I'm actively building. Of course, my scene has always existed, but when you become a part of something, you're actively building it up, and I don't feel like I have to prove myself to anybody, because at the end of the day, my passion is my passion, and so fucking be it. I don't need scars. I don't need street cred. I don't need some tragic backstory just to be taken seriously. Even though I do have a tragic backstory, but I don't need that to be taken seriously. Why can't my ideas just be my own? If punk is about rebellion, anti-authoritarianism, and rejecting the status quo, then being truly punk in America is both possible, but it's also incredibly difficult because this country has a way of absorbing and commodifying resistance. I feel like America turns rebellion into aesthetic. It sells like punk in the form of $300 ripped jeans and TikTok trends. And I'm not against anybody wearing $300 jeans. I literally love clothes. Like, that's my thing. I feel like it rewards palatable rage and punishes real dissent. And when punk energy is raw, political, or unapologetically marginalized, especially when it's black, brown, queer, or femme, it gets ignored, censored, or criminalized. So, in that sense, being true punk in America means resisting not just the system, but also the system's attempts to package your rebellion. It means fighting to stay authentic, even when the industry, the government, and the algorithm tries to filter you out. It's not impossible, but it is war. It's war, and maybe that's exactly what makes it punk. It's like, okay, I know I'm punk, but I also know a part of me will always be a poser. Anti-authoritarianism is ideal, but it's just not really fit for America. Fighting censorship is one thing, but I know I'm a poser simply because there are certain boundaries I'll never cross because this country is unfair to women. I'll be damned if I sit in a cell for 20 plus years to defend my basic rights, but I'll also fight like hell to keep them. But that's why I feel like being a poser is a paradox because, there's limits to everything, especially when it's, environment based. And I don't think that it's being a poser is called being conscious, strategic, and, surviving in a system that was never built for you in the first place. I don't think that punk is about burning yourself out for the sake of performance. It's about knowing the stakes, making noise where you can, and choosing your battles with intention. You're not less punk because you won't throw your life away in a system that already punishes women, especially black and brown, queer, loud, or unruly women for existing. I'm punk because I see the trap and I still choose to fight. I'm punk because I'm honest about the contradictions and I refuse to be owned by any of them. And I feel like that's as punk as you can be. Being a poser is a myth and it's invented to gatekeep rebellion. And I don't feel like that's punk to gatekeep a rebellion. There's like a question that I feel like every person that, even especially artists that call themselves punk or alternative or anything of that nature, but it's like, how do you stay grounded in a culture that often commodifies rebellion? I just feel like you have to remind yourself who you're doing it for. I'm not here to be a trend. I'm here for the girls who never saw themselves on stage. I never saw myself on stage. I'm here for the weirdos, the softer punks, the tough femmes. I don't want to be idolized. I want to be useful. What's the fun in being quiet? I feel like all creatives should seek solitude, but I feel like that's a whole nother rant for another day. I understand when people mean when they say to know yourself, you have to lose yourself, because I've lost and found myself at least 1,000,000 times in my lifetime. But that whole phrase in itself is one big paradox, only because the more deeply you look inward, the more you'll realize you're always changing. We're here to evolve and change. That's all we do as a civilization. It's not just humans, it's everything. We're here to evolve. That's one of the purposes of life. You're here to be here, start from scratch, and evolve. Never a fixed thing. And a lot of humans feel like they have to be this one set fixed thing. But change is good and necessary. Change can't always be good, but change is necessary. Self-awareness can dissolve an identity just as fast as it can define it. You become too self-aware, you become obsessed with being self-aware, and you keep trying to psychoanalyze yourself instead of allowing yourself to go through things and grow from them and heal from them. And you're creating your own path to self-destruction, and you don't even know it because you're doing it in the name of healing. And I feel like ridiculous to me. And I say this as someone that's very freaking self-aware, that sometimes you just don't have to have everything figured out. And I've lost my mind, and I still lose my mind because I can't figure things out. So that's how I know I can say this with wholeheartedness, because I am you. I've been you. I am you. I see you. Paradox is when people say that freedom requires limits. And it is, because If you had like zero limits, no structure, no consequences, you'd fall apart. Real freedom isn't chaos, but real freedom is chaos, and that's why it's a paradox. Because true freedom, there would be chaos. I feel like real freedom is choosing the boundaries that serve you instead of obeying the ones that was forced on you. That's rebellion, but that's safe rebellion. Well, it's not exactly safe rebellion. It's rebellion either way, but it can be safe if you play your cards correctly. Creation requires destruction, and that's funny because Kurt Cobain once wrote in his journal, "Thank you for the tragedy. I needed it for my art," and I feel like that's very freaking real. Destruction is the opposite of creation, but creation requires it. Art is born from strife. I tweeted this before. Art is born from strife. I don't know where I read that, but that's something that sits with me. Like, sometimes you have to turn your tragedies and your pain into something that's useful for you. Drive yourself too insane, you're going to harm yourself, and I don't support self harm. Art is born out of grief, confusion, and rebellion, and pretty things come from ugly truths. That's just the bottom line. You need silence to make sound matter, and I feel like that's very true. I feel like people should take creative breaks and take in everything you can from the world and just observe, and absorb, and then go completely mute. You have to go completely mute. You need time for solitude. You have to take time for yourself to process everything that you need to put together. The world is very chaotic, and I feel like a lot of people use the world to inspire them. But if you're just trying to seek that inspirement, you're just taking too much in, and sometimes you're taking way more than you can control. And it happens, and it's very normal. But at the same time, you need to be careful. So I feel like solitude is a great thing. Without pauses, breaths, or even like complete stillness, music is just noise, you know? And that's the same with life. You need emptiness to feel the meaning of fullness. So go mute. That's life advice. Take it or leave it. It may not make sense now, but at some point it will make sense. So don't come back to this and say I told you so, because I know I did. Tolerance is a paradox too. A truly tolerant society must be tolerant of all intolerances. Otherwise, intolerance will destroy it. Can you protect peace without becoming aggressive? Don't start talking about Malcolm X. Can you protect peace without being aggressive? Don't come to me about no Malcolm X if you can't do it. Some shit only cool when other people do it. Keep that in mind. Free will versus fate. If your choices are really, and they're yours, how can your life already be predetermined and destined? How can fate exist with free will? And how can free will exist with fate? Because if your life is already destined, are your choices just an illusion? Like, how does that make sense? I don't think fate and free will go hand in hand, because if things are meant to be, they're going to be that way anyway. But if it's my free will, I have the opportunity to make choices that go down different paths. But then it's also at the same time, maybe you have free will, but every choice you make, you're going to end up at the same destination either way, you know? But I don't know, because life changes and we're here to evolve. So, like, with life constantly changing every day, how can things be destined? But then again, I know what fate feels like. I think, if y'all hear that cop car, no, you don't. So that's just something that kind of makes my head go into circles. Um, I feel like this is more of a emotional contradiction versus a paradox, but I'm going to mention it anyway. The state of feeling everything and nothing at the same time is so crazy to think about, because it's just all one big circle. Because you don't necessarily, you do feel nothing, but at the same time, you only feel nothing because you felt overwhelmed by emotion. You had to take in everything, and now you feel nothing. But the state of feeling nothing is still the state of feeling, because you know you feel nothing. If you didn't feel it, you just wouldn't feel it, but you're aware you don't feel it. But at the same time, you don't feel it. You feel it here, not here. I just think that's funny to think about sometimes. But yeah, those are just, that was just a big rabbit hole of freaking nothing. And I just felt like talking. But I feel like I hope you gained something from at least one thing I've said, because or don't, but somebody will. My brother is so fresh. But you know,